I was living on Donlands farm from the time I was born until 1940. And then one night I was up in my little room at the head of the stairs and I heard voices shouting downstairs. I heard somebody saying, "The child, the child." A family had come in off the road and they had said to the adults who were having dinner downstairs, "Your roof is on fire." This was 1940 in the middle of the winter. So my Aunt Margie, who was one of those children who'd been raised by Aunt Polly, came quietly up the stairs, got me dressed out of my pajamas into my winter clothes, handed me my teddy bear. We walked quietly down the stairs and then stood out in the snow and watched the house burn down, my beloved home, this wonderful farmhouse made of old stone. And I saw my mother trying to throw things out of the upstairs window. The fireman came up to her and said, "Mrs. Turnbull, get your papers, get your photographs," but she wasn't able to do that. And we watched the roof slowly burn down, and then eventually I was taken over to the boarding house. And later I saw these terrible pictures of my home with the flames coming out of the war. And it made me ill later to even see those pictures. After college, I went as a volunteer over to Europe, and I found myself in Germany for that very first winter. And I was staying in the home of Trudy Spoon, who was a young violin teacher, who later became head of the Stuttgart Music School, Musikschule. And Trudy took me to the top of Ulm Cathedral. During the bombing of Ulm by the Allied bombers, the cathedral had been saved. So we climbed our way up into the top of the steeple and looked out. And Trudy told me about how all the houses all around the cathedral had been burned out during the bombing, bombed out. And her sister had given birth to her first child right after the bombing together. And one day, Frau Moni von Kramon, whose son had been killed in the plot against Hitler, came to the platform to tell her story. And there was no translator from German into English present, so I had learned German at school, so I just sprang onto the platform and stood beside her. And her story was so powerful that it poured right through me and out to the audience. I mightn't have even known what some of the words actually meant, but her story I was able to tell it out to the audience. And that was one of the most incredible experiences of my life, to hear how this family, she had gone into Himmler and said, "If you don't change your ways, our country will suffer." And then her son-in-law had been killed in the failed plot against Hitler. In the audience was Irene Laure, and Irene had led the 3 million socialist women of France in hunger marches against the Nazis down in Marseille, her home. And her son had been tortured in front of her. She hated the Germans. When she came to the center in Switzerland, Co, and heard German spoken, she wanted to pack her bags and leave. How can you build a new Europe without the Germans? She heard Moni von Kramon. The two of them met for lunch. They wept together, told their stories to each other. And Irene ended up going into all the provinces, the parliaments of Germany, all the individual state parliaments, and saying to them, "I don't forget what happened, but I ask for forgiveness for my hatred." And this was all part of the healing process that allowed the Schuman plan. Schuman came to the center and Adenauer came. They were able to form the Schuman plan, which then became the foundation of the European Union. So I would